So this short video is going to demonstrate how to set up and calibrate the Hamilton G5 ventilator ready for use for your patient. So the Hamilton G5 requires a main supply. It does have a battery backup, but the ventilator should be left plugged in at all times so that that battery is constantly charged. You'll also need a gas supply, which comes from air and oxygen. Your air hose is the black hose and your white hose is your oxygen hose. And when we plug these into the mains gas supply, you'll see that they are colour coded. So white will go to white, black will go to black and white. So oxygen is white, air is black. On the top, where you plug it into the main supply, you can see you've got like a little notch in the metal part, and that needs to be lined up onto your main supply when you insert the hoses. So we'll just demonstrate now how to insert the hoses into the mains gas supply. So as you can see here, this is your oxygen supply. It's white around the outer rim. It does actually say oxygen at the top, and you're going to have your notch to the top, push it in quite firmly, and then just give it a slight tug to make sure that it is actually in place properly. Don't ever stand in front of these, because if you haven't inserted it properly, they can pop out and obviously hit you. And then over here we've got our air supply, which is black and white, and again says air at the top, and you've got a little notch here that you line up at the top, push in to engage it properly. So the equipment you're going to need is a ventilator circuit. This is what it comes like packaged. I'm obviously using a training one that's already out the package. It comes with a little red cap on the end. Do keep that red cap. If your ventilator circuit's not in use, it keeps it nice and clean, and you can also use it as part of the calibration process. So you've got, that's your tubing out of the packet. You'll also need an expiratory valve. The expiratory valves come in a packet with a traceability sticker on the back, and once you've put the expiratory valve onto the ventilator, you must keep this packet. It goes in a clear plastic wallet on the side of the ventilator, and that will be used once the ventilator is dirty and no longer needed, because we need to autoclave these parts. So these are the only bits that are autoclaved, and it's your expiratory valve, which is amber coloured, and then the little red diaphragm, which both of these need to be autoclaved after use. So when you insert your expiratory valve, the diaphragm just sits on the top in that little lip, and it's always important to have the metal disc uppermost. If you get problems when calibrating, sometimes it can be because people have put the diaphragm on upside down with the metal disc down. So always make sure the metal disc is uppermost. And the other thing that you're going to need is your flow sensor tubing. So this comes in a packet with a little white plastic adapter, which you need to be used as part of your calibration process, so don't throw that away. And again, even once you've calibrated the ventilator, it can go inside the packet that the expiratory valve came from, so that it's there should you need it again. So take your flow sensor tubing out of the packet, and it's attached, both parts are attached, blue and white tubing, so just pull that apart slightly. It'll just make it easier in a minute for us to attach that to the ventilator. So they're your parts that you're going to need. So your expiratory valve is going to be put on first. This goes underneath the ventilator, and you've got a lip on either side which we're going to insert that into. So you just push it in and twist so that it's secured well between those two little clips at the side. You then want to take your ventilator tubing, and we're going to attach that to your inspiratory and expiratory limbs. So one onto here, your expiratory, and the other end will go onto your inspiratory limb, and then that can just clip into your supportive arm. Your flow sensor can then be attached, so that just clips onto the end of the ventilator tubing, and it's quite useful at this point to use your little adapter and just put that in place ready for when we're calibrating, which we'll do in a minute. And then your two ends of tubing, your blue and your clear piece, go onto here where it says flow sensor. So you've got a blue disc for the blue tubing and a sort of a silver disc for the white tubing. So this just needs to push into place. It's quite tight when you first put it on, and it goes right up to the lip. And the same with the clear one. Like so. So we're now ready to turn the ventilator on and to start the calibration process. So the on-off switch is at the back of your ventilator, hidden under a little plastic cover, just to obviously to prevent people from accidentally turning it off. So you literally just turn that on. It will make a bit of a noise when it comes on, and then you get this home screen. And what it will do first is it will do its own self-test before you can actually start putting the machine through the calibration process. Okay, once it's finished its self-test, you come to this home screen, and what we're going to do first is a pre-op check. This should always be done once the ventilator's been set up, ready following discharge of a patient or when a patient no longer needs it, and also prior to using the machine when we're getting an admission. So click on pre-op check, and it gives you three options, and in order to calibrate the machine you have to go through all three. So you've got flow sensor, tightness and oxygen sensor. For the flow sensor and the tightness, the machine will ask you and direct you to do certain things, but the oxygen sensor, it does itself once you've clicked on that button. Once it's completed, you get a green tick to say that it's successful, and it will date and time when that was done. So we're going to do the flow sensor first. You'll get your instructions as to what to do will come up on the left-hand side of the screen, so just keep your eye on those. So it tells me the calibration's in process, and now it says turn the flow sensor. And to turn the flow sensor, you literally turn it. That's why you need that little white plastic adapter. And shortly it'll tell me to turn it back. Okay, so it now tells us flow sensor calibrated okay, and it's updated it for today on the 22nd of November. So we've completed that process. So that little white adapter can now come off, go inside the packet that our respiratory valve came in, and that can go onto the side of the ventilator in the plastic wallet. So that's ready for when we need it. So the next one we're going to do is the tightness check. You can use the red cap over the end when it tells you to tighten the patient's system. You do need to press it quite tight. If it fails ever, you can try by putting a glove on your hands and sticking your hand over the end, which often will make it a tighter seal. So tightness, it's going to tell me to tighten the patient's system in a minute. So click the red cap on the end and press quite hard. Patient system tight, so that means that that's passed, and again it's updated with the date and time. And then the final one is the oxygen sensor, which you can just click on that. It'll just calibrate itself without sort of you having to do any intervention. So that's our final calibration. Oxygen sensor is calibrated okay, and again it's updated here. If we were now going to use this on a patient, it's important to remember that you need to put your bacterial filter between the ventilator circuit and your expiratory valve. So that goes on here like so, and then you would be able to attach your suction tubing, catheter mount, etc. ready for patient use. If you don't want to use the ventilator now, we've just calibrated it so that we know it's clean and ready to use. What you will do is update the ventilator checklist at the side. So make sure that you've got the corresponding asset number here, and then we will sign to say that it was calibrated and who calibrated it and whether there were any issues. And once you've done that, then you can just turn it off, just leaving it plugged in and ready for when it might be needed.